The apartment felt too big after Marcus moved out. I stood in the doorway of what used to be his bedroom, staring at the bare walls and the dust particles dancing in the afternoon sunlight. 3 years we'd lived together as roommates, best friends really, and now he was gone. Moved to Seattle for some tech job that promised equity and stock options and all those things that were supposed to matter at 28. You should rent it out, my best friend Jenna had said over coffee that morning. That apartment is way too expensive for you to carry alone, especially with your student loans. She wasn't wrong. The place was a gorgeous two-bedroom in Capitol Hill, hardwood floors, exposed brick, the kind of apartment that made you feel like you had your life together even when you absolutely didn't. But the rent was brutal, and my job as a graphic designer at a mid-sized marketing firm wasn't exactly making me rich. I pulled out my phone and started drafting a post for the roommate finding websites. Room available in Capitol Hill. LGBTQ plus friendly. Must be clean, respectful, and okay with occasional late-night design sessions. I hit post before I could overthink it. The responses started coming in within an hour. Most were the usual suspects: college students who wanted to party, people whose messages were littered with red flags, one guy who sent me a shirtless mirror selfie for absolutely no reason. I was about to give up for the day when a message came through that made me pause. Hi, I saw your listing. My name's Daniel, I'm 26, and I just moved back to the city after finishing my master's degree in architecture. I'm looking for a quiet place to work on my portfolio while I job hunt. I'm tidy, I keep to myself mostly, and I promise I won't throw any wild parties. Would love to see the place if it's still available. Something about the message felt genuine. No try-hard jokes, no weird vibes, just straightforward and polite. I checked out his profile picture. A guy with dark, curly hair and warm brown eyes, wearing a simple navy sweater, smiling at the camera like he wasn't trying too hard to impress anyone. I replied, "Hey Daniel, the room is still available. Want to come by tomorrow around 6?" His response came fast. "That would be perfect, thanks so much, see you then." I spent the next day in a weird state of nervous energy. I deep cleaned the apartment, even though it was already pretty clean. I rearranged the throw pillows on the couch 3 times. I put out the fancy coffee table books I never actually read but kept around to look cultured. By the time 6 o'clock rolled around, I was convinced I was being ridiculous. The doorbell rang at exactly 6:03. I opened the door and there he was, Daniel, somehow even better looking in person, which seemed unfair. He was tall, maybe 6'1", with those same curly dark locks that looked perpetually tousled in an effortlessly attractive way. He wore a gray Henley and dark jeans, and he had this presence about him that was both confident and slightly nervous at the same time. "Hey, you must be Ethan," he said, extending his hand. His handshake was firm, warm. "That's me, come on in." He stepped inside, and I watched as his eyes scanned the apartment. There was something methodical about the way he looked at things, taking in the exposed brick, the way the light hit the hardwood floors, the open layout between the kitchen and living room. "This is beautiful," he said, and I could tell he meant it. "Did you do the design work yourself?" "Some of it," I admitted. "I'm a graphic designer by trade, but I dabble in interior stuff. It's kind of therapeutic." "It shows. The space has really good energy." We did the tour. He asked thoughtful questions about utilities, about the neighborhood, about house rules. When we got to the empty bedroom, he stood in the doorway the same way I had the day before, just taking it in. "The light in here is incredible," he said quietly. "I could set up my drafting table right there by the window." Something about the way he said it, so earnest and genuine, made me want to just offer him the room right then and there. But I played it cool. "Want to sit down, talk logistics?" I offered. We ended up on the couch, and I made us both coffee. As we talked, I found myself genuinely enjoying his company. He told me about his master's program at Yale, about how he'd specialized in sustainable urban design, about his dream of creating public spaces that brought communities together. He talked about architecture the way I talked about design, with this passion that made his whole face light up. "So why'd you come back to the city?" I asked. His expression shifted just slightly. "My family's here, my sister actually, Jenna, and I wanted to be closer to her, especially now." My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. "Wait, Jenna Richardson." He blinked. "Yeah, do you know her?" My brain was short-circuiting. "Jenna's my best friend. We've known each other since college." Daniel's eyes went wide. "You're Ethan, the Ethan. She talks about you constantly. Oh my God, I should have put that together." We both started laughing. That surprised, slightly hysterical laughter that happens when coincidence smacks you in the face. "She never told me her brother was looking for a place," I said. "I didn't tell her I was responding to roommate ads. I wanted to do this on my own, you know. Not have her try to set me up with one of her friends or anything." There was a beat of silence, where we both processed this absolutely bizarre twist of fate. "Well," I said finally, "I guess the question is whether this makes things easier or more complicated." Daniel ran a hand through his curls, a gesture I would come to know well. "Honestly, I still really want the room. This place is perfect, and now that I know you're Jenna's best friend, I actually feel better about it. She's always saying how great you are." Something warm bloomed in my chest at that. "The room's yours if you want it," I heard myself saying. His smile could have powered the whole building. "Really? Just like that?" "Just like that. I mean, we'll do all the official stuff, lease paperwork and everything. But yeah, welcome home, roommate." We shook on it, and I tried to ignore the way my skin tingled where our hands touched. Daniel moved in the following Saturday. Jenna showed up, of course, with coffee and bagels, and a knowing smile that I absolutely did not trust. "I cannot believe you two found each other," she said for approximately the 15th time, sitting on my kitchen counter while Daniel and I carried boxes up the stairs. "What are the odds?" "Pretty low," I grunted, hauling a particularly heavy box labeled books in Daniel's neat handwriting. "It's fate," Jenna declared. "It's chaos," Daniel called from the stairwell. "Same thing," she replied. By early afternoon, most of Daniel's stuff was inside. I was surprised by how little he had. No massive furniture, no huge TV, just the essentials: a bed frame, a desk, his drafting table, boxes of books, and a few bins of clothes. There was something almost monastic about it. "I'm more of a minimalist," he explained when he caught me looking. "Less stuff, more space to think." I respect that. My ex used to say I had too many throw pillows. How many is too many? According to him, more than zero. Daniel laughed, and I felt that warm flutter again. I was going to have to get that under control. We worked together to set up his room, and I found myself noticing little things. The way he measured twice before deciding where to put his desk. The careful way he unpacked his drafting tools, each one placed with intention. The small framed photo he set on his nightstand. Him and Jenna, probably from a few years ago, both of them laughing at something off camera. "You two are close," I observed. "She practically raised me," he said softly. "Our parents weren't really around much. Emotionally, I mean. They were always working, always busy. Jenna was the one who showed up to my school plays, who helped me with homework, who sat with me when I came out and told me everything would be okay." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest ache. "She never told me much about her family," I admitted. "She doesn't like to talk about it. But yeah, it's mostly just been the two of us for a long time. That's why I wanted to come back. She's dating someone seriously now, and I think he might propose soon, and I wanted to be here for this chapter of her life, you know." I did know. It was exactly the kind of thing Jenna would downplay but secretly appreciate more than anything. By the time we finished setting up, it was early evening. Jenna had long since left, claiming she had dinner plans with the aforementioned serious boyfriend. Daniel and I stood in his now organized room, both of us slightly sweaty and definitely hungry. "I owe you dinner," Daniel said, "for helping with all this." "You don't owe me anything, but I will absolutely take you up on dinner." We ended up ordering Thai food and eating it on the couch, some mindless Netflix show playing in the background that neither of us were really watching. Instead, we talked about everything. Our childhoods, our dreams, our fears, our favorite movies, our worst dating disasters. "So there was this guy," I said, 3/4 through my pad thai, "who I dated for about 2 months. Everything seemed fine. Good, even. And then one day I came home early from work and found him in my apartment, wearing my clothes, taking selfies." Daniel nearly choked on his spring roll. "What?" "I'm completely serious. He was wearing my favorite button-down, the expensive one, and he was posing in front of my full-length mirror taking photos. When I asked him what he was doing, he said he was building his brand and my apartment had good aesthetic." "Please tell me you broke up with him immediately." "I mean, I let him finish the photo shoot. I'm not a monster." We both dissolved into laughter, the kind that makes your stomach hurt and your eyes water. "Okay, my turn," Daniel said. "Worst date. This guy took me to a poetry slam for our first date." That doesn't sound terrible. It wasn't, until he got on stage and performed a 20-minute spoken word piece about his ex-boyfriend, while making direct eye contact with me. No. Yes, it was called Ode to Jason, a man who never understood my depths. I'm dying. I wanted to die. I literally considered faking a medical emergency. We traded stories until the food was gone and the night had gotten late. At some point, I realized we'd migrated closer together on the couch, not quite touching but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "I should probably get to bed," Daniel said eventually, though he didn't move. "Big day of job hunting tomorrow." "Yeah, I've got an early meeting with a client who doesn't understand the concept of time zones." We both stood, and there was this moment, this brief second where we were standing close in the dim light of the living room, and I could have sworn something passed between us. Some acknowledgement of something. "Thanks for today," Daniel said quietly. "For everything. I'm really glad I answered your ad." "I'm really glad you did too." He smiled, squeezed my shoulder briefly, and then headed to his room. I stood there for a moment after his door closed, my shoulder still warm from his touch, wondering what the hell I was getting myself into. Living with Daniel was easy in a way that surprised me. He was exactly what he'd promised: tidy, quiet, respectful. His architecture job hunt meant he was home a lot those first few weeks, usually holed up in his room working on his portfolio or sketching at his drafting table. Sometimes I'd come home from work and find him in the kitchen, cooking something that smelled incredible. "You cook?" I'd asked the first time I found him making homemade pasta from scratch. "Stress relief," he'd said, hands covered in flour. "Want some? I always make too much." That became our thing. He'd cook, I'd help with prep or cleanup, and we'd eat together, talking about our days. I learned that he was interviewing at several firms, that he had a phone call with a company in Copenhagen that went really well, that his dream project would be designing community centers in underserved neighborhoods. He learned that I was freelancing on the side, building a portfolio to eventually start my own design studio, that my biggest client was a nightmare who changed her mind every 5 seconds, that I'd always wanted to design album covers for indie bands. 3 weeks in, I realized I'd started looking forward to coming home in a way I hadn't in years. It was a Thursday when things shifted. I'd had a brutal day. The nightmare client had rejected my 5th round of revisions with increasingly contradictory feedback. My boss had loaded 3 new projects on my desk with impossible deadlines, and I'd spilled coffee on my favorite shirt during my lunch break. By the time I got home, I was exhausted and frustrated and just done. Daniel was in the kitchen, and the smell of something with garlic and herbs filled the apartment. "Rough day?" he asked, taking one look at my face. "Is it that obvious? You have coffee on your shirt, and you look like you might commit violence." I looked down. Sure enough, the stain had set. "Fantastic. Go change. Dinner's almost ready, and I made extra because I had a feeling you might need it." Something about that casual kindness, the fact that he'd thought about me, made my throat tight. I changed into sweats and an old college t-shirt, and by the time I came back, he'd set the small dining table we never used. Candles and everything. "What's this?" I asked. "Comfort food therapy, sit." He'd made chicken piccata with homemade pasta, a simple arugula salad, and there was a bottle of wine breathing on the counter. "Daniel, this is. You had a shit day. Everyone deserves a nice meal after a shit day." We sat, we ate, and slowly the tension in my shoulders began to unwind. The food was incredible, but more than that, Daniel was easy to talk to. He let me vent about my client without trying to fix everything, just listening and making sympathetic noises in the right places. She told me the logo needed to speak to the feminine mystique, but also appeal to millennial men who enjoy craft beer, I said, gesturing with my wine glass. "What does that even mean?" "It means she has no idea what she wants, and is hoping you'll read her mind." "Exactly, thank you." By the end of the meal, I felt almost human again. We moved to the couch with the rest of the wine, and somehow ended up watching old episodes of the Great British Bake Off, both of us providing running commentary on the baker's techniques. "That's never going to set in time," Daniel said, pointing at the screen. "Oh, it's a disaster. Look at Paul's face, he knows." Why am I so invested in whether or not this soggy bottom gets fixed? Because you're human and you have a soul. We were laughing when Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression changed, just slightly. Something complicated crossed his face. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just, my ex texted me. Ryan, he's in town and wants to meet up." My stomach did a weird flip. "Oh, do you want to?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, staring at his phone. "I don't know. We ended things pretty badly. He wanted me to stay in New Haven after graduation, said I was making a mistake coming back here. We fought about it, said things we shouldn't have said." "How long were you together?" 2 years. He was my first real serious relationship." Daniel set his phone down, screen side down. "Part of me is curious, to see if we could at least be friends, but another part thinks it's a terrible idea." "What does your gut tell you?" He looked at me, really looked at me, and I felt pinned by his gaze. "My gut says I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The moment stretched between us, heavy with something unspoken. I was very aware of how close we were sitting, of the wine buzz making everything feel soft and warm, of the way the candlelight from dinner was still flickering in the other room. Daniel's phone buzzed again. The spell broke. "I should respond," he said, but he didn't sound happy about it. "Yeah, of course." He picked up his phone, typed something quickly, then set it aside again. "I told him I'm busy this week, but maybe we could grab coffee next week." "That seems reasonable, low stakes." "Yeah," he didn't sound convinced. We finished the episode in comfortable silence, but my mind was racing. I had no right to feel weird about Daniel's ex wanting to meet up. We were roommates, friends, that was it. The fact that I'd started noticing things like how his hair curled at the nape of his neck, or the way he hummed while he cooked, or how his eyes crinkled when he really laughed. That was just me being observant. Right. The week passed in a strange tension I couldn't quite name. Daniel went to his coffee meeting with Ryan on Wednesday afternoon. I tried not to think about it while I was at work, failed miserably, and ended up checking my phone approximately every 7 minutes like a crazy person. When I got home, Daniel was already there, sitting on the couch with his laptop looking thoughtful. "How'd it go?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Weird," he said. "Good weird, but weird." I sat down next to him, leaving what I thought was a respectful amount of space between us. "Want to talk about it?" He closed his laptop, set it aside. He apologized for the things he said when I left, for trying to make me choose between him and my family. He said he'd been doing therapy and realized he'd been controlling. That's mature of him. Yeah. And then he asked if there was any chance we could try again. My heart plummeted. "Oh." I said no, Daniel added quickly, and my heart did this stupid little leap. I told him I appreciated the apology, but we'd both moved on, that I'm building a new life here and I'm happy. "Are you happy?" He looked at me, and there was something in his expression that made my breath catch. "Yeah, Ethan, I really am." We ordered pizza that night, and things felt normal again. Easy. We'd fallen into this routine that felt as natural as breathing, cooking or ordering in together, eating while we talked about our days, watching something on TV, or sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence while we both worked on our respective projects. Jenna came over that Friday for our weekly hangout, which had been a tradition since college. She took one look at Daniel and me on the couch, sitting maybe a little closer than strictly necessary, sharing a bowl of popcorn, and I watched her suppress a smile. "You two are adorable," she said. "We're eating popcorn," I pointed out. "Adorably." Daniel threw a piece of popcorn at her. "Aren't you supposed to be meeting Kevin for dinner?" "In an hour. I wanted to stop by and see my two favorite people first." She settled into the armchair, and we caught her up on our respective weeks. She was excited about a promotion she'd gotten at work, nervous about meeting Kevin's parents next month, and extremely invested in getting Daniel's opinion on wedding venues, even though Kevin hadn't actually proposed yet. "I'm just being prepared," she insisted. "You have a Pinterest board, don't you?" Daniel asked. "3, actually." We all laughed, and I felt this wave of contentment wash over me. This was good. This weird little found family we'd created. Even if I was harboring increasingly complicated feelings for my roommate, who was also my best friend's brother, at least we had this. After Jenna left, Daniel and I cleaned up the popcorn carnage and settled back on the couch. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said. "Always." "Why'd you and your ex really break up? The guy before the one who wore your clothes?" I was quiet for a moment, considering. His name was Marcus. Actually, he was my old roommate, the one who moved to Seattle. "Oh shit, really?" "Yeah, we were friends for 2 years before we tried dating. It lasted about 6 months before we both realized we were better as friends. The relationship it felt forced, you know. Like we were trying to make something work because it seemed like it should work, not because it actually did." "Do you still talk to him?" "Sometimes, texts here and there. I hope he's happy in Seattle." I paused. "Why do you ask?" Daniel was looking at his hands, fidgeting with the edge of the throw blanket we'd been sharing. "I guess I'm trying to figure out how people know when something is real versus when it's just convenient or expected." "Did it feel real with Ryan?" "At the time, I thought so. But looking back, I think I was more in love with the idea of being in love than I was actually in love with him. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." "Have you ever felt it, the real thing?" The question hung in the air between us. I could have lied, should have lied probably. Instead, I found myself saying, "I think I might be starting to." His eyes met mine, and the air in the room shifted, charged. "Ethan," he started, but his phone buzzed loud in the quiet room. We both jumped. He looked at it, frowned. "It's the firm in Copenhagen. They want to schedule a final interview." "That's amazing. The job you really wanted, right?" Yeah, it is." He didn't sound as excited as I'd expected. "The interview is Monday. Virtual, thank God. but if I get it, I'd need to move within a month. Something cold settled in my stomach. Copenhagen, that's really far. Other side of the world, basically. He was still looking at his phone, but his expression was troubled. I don't know if I want it anymore. What, Daniel, this is your dream job. Sustainable design, community-focused architecture, everything you've been talking about. I know, but, he trailed off, set his phone down. Things are different now than when I applied. Different how? He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw my own confusion reflected back in his eyes. I don't know, they just are. We sat there in loaded silence for a long moment before Daniel stood abruptly. I should go prepare for this interview. Get my portfolio in order. Yeah, of course, good luck, not that you need it. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Thanks, Ethan. After he disappeared into his room, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the TV without seeing it, trying to untangle the mess of emotions in my chest. The weekend passed in a strange limbo. Daniel spent most of it holed up in his room, preparing for his interview. I tried to give him space, but the apartment felt wrong without our usual easy interaction. No shared meals, no casual conversation, just the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on both of us. Saturday night, I knocked on his door around 8. Yeah, his voice was muffled. I'm ordering Thai food, want your usual. A pause, yeah, that'd be great, thanks. I ordered enough for a small army, and when the food arrived, I texted him. He emerged from his room looking rumpled and stressed, his curls even more chaotic than usual. You look like you could use a break, I observed. I've been staring at the same portfolio page for an hour trying to decide if I should rearrange it. Come eat, food first, portfolio anxiety later. We settled at the dining table and slowly the tension eased. We didn't talk about the interview or Copenhagen. Instead, we talked about nothing important. A funny video I'd seen, a weird commission request he'd gotten from a potential client, whether or not pineapple belonged on pizza, it absolutely did, and I would die on that hill. You're good at this, Daniel said suddenly. At what? Having objectively correct opinions about pizza toppings. He smiled, at making everything feel okay, even when it's not. I learned from the best. Jenna's been doing that for me since college. She really cares about you, you know. She talks about you like your family. You guys are the closest thing to family I have, I admitted. My parents and I we're not close. They didn't take the gay thing well. We're civil now, but it's surface-level stuff. Holidays are awkward. Jenna's been my person for a long time. Daniel's hand moved across the table, covering mine. The touch was warm, grounding. I'm sorry you went through that. It is what it is. I've made my own family. I looked at our hands, his fingers resting on top of mine. Neither of us moved to break the contact. How did your parents take it when you came out? About as well as they took everything else Jenna and I did, which is to say they barely reacted at all. My dad said something like, okay, sure, and went back to his newspaper. My mom asked if I was seeing anyone and then immediately changed the subject when I said no. That's something. It's very them. Everything is surface level, no real emotion. It's why Jenna and I are so close. We had to be growing up in that house. We finished eating, hands still touching across the table, both of us pretending not to notice. Or maybe we were both noticing and choosing not to acknowledge it. I wasn't sure which was worse. I should get back to it, Daniel said eventually, reluctantly pulling his hand away. Interviews at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You're going to kill it. They'd be idiots not to hire you. Even if it means I'd be moving to Copenhagen. The question felt loaded. I chose my words carefully. Even then, your career is important, Daniel. Don't let anything hold you back from what you want. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, relief, I couldn't tell. Right, yeah, thanks, Ethan. He went back to his room, and I cleaned up dinner, my mind racing. Sunday, I made myself scarce. I met up with some friends for brunch, ran errands I'd been putting off, stayed out until early evening. When I came home, the apartment was quiet. Daniel's door was closed, and I could hear him on a call, speaking in that professional voice people use for important conversations. I went to my room, put in headphones, and tried to distract myself with work. It didn't help. Monday morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and tried to act normal. Daniel emerged from his room at 8:30, wearing a crisp button-down and looking simultaneously confident and terrified. "You look great," I said. "Very professional architect." "I'm freaking out." "You're going to be amazing. Want me to stay? I can work from home today." He looked so grateful I thought he might hug me. "Would you? I know it's stupid, but I'd feel better knowing you were here." "Not stupid at all. I'll be in my room working with headphones on. You won't even know I'm here." The interview started at 9. I tried to focus on work, but mostly I found myself staring at the clock, imagining how it was going. At 10:30, I heard his door open. I pulled off my headphones and went to the living room. Daniel was standing in the kitchen, making coffee, looking dazed. "How'd it go?" I asked. "I think it went well. They seemed really interested in my community center project. They asked a lot of questions about my design philosophy, my experience with sustainable materials. The head of the department said they'd be in touch by end of week with a decision." "That's great. That's really great, Daniel." "Yeah," he didn't sound excited. He sounded confused, maybe a little lost. "You okay?" He turned to face me, coffee mug in hand. The whole time I was interviewing, talking about this job I've wanted for months, all I could think about was how much I didn't want to leave. My heart started pounding. Leave the city. Leave this apartment, leave you. The air left my lungs. "Daniel, I know this is probably the worst timing ever," he continued, words tumbling out now like he couldn't stop them. "I know we're roommates and you're Jenna's best friend, and this could make everything complicated, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this." He set down his coffee mug and crossed the space between us. We were standing close now, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. "Feel what?" I asked, even though I knew, even though I'd been feeling it too. Like coming home from that interview was the best part of my day because it meant I got to see you. Like cooking dinner is only fun because I know we'll eat it together. Like I've been falling for you since the day I answered your roommate ad, and I didn't even realize it until I thought about having to leave. "The job." "Fuck the job," he said, and I'd never heard him sound so sure of anything. "I mean, maybe I'll take it if they offer. Maybe I won't. But I needed you to know this first. Before I made any decisions, I needed you to know that you're part of the equation now." "I've been losing my mind," I admitted, the words spilling out. Trying to figure out if I was imagining this thing between us. Trying to convince myself I was just lonely or projecting or something. But Daniel, I didn't get to finish the sentence because he kissed me. It wasn't a tentative first kiss. It was certain, deliberate, his hands coming up to cup my face as his lips met mine. I made a small sound of surprise that turned into something else entirely as I kissed him back, my hands finding his waist, pulling him closer. He tasted like coffee and possibility. The kiss was soft at first, exploratory, and then deeper as he pressed closer, one hand sliding into my hair. I'd been kissed before, plenty of times, but nothing had ever felt like this. Like everything in my life had been leading to this exact moment. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard, foreheads resting together. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," Daniel whispered. "Yeah. Since the night you came home stressed and I made you dinner. You smiled at me over that chicken piccata like I'd hung the moon, and I knew. I knew the day you moved in," I confessed. When you stood in that empty room and talked about the light, I thought I was losing my mind." He laughed, the sound warm and relieved. "We're both idiots. Complete idiots." He kissed me again, softer this time, sweeter. When we broke apart, he was smiling. "So what do we do now?" he asked. "Well, first, I think we should probably sit down and have a real conversation about this. About us. About what it means." "Very reasonable. But before that, I think you should kiss me again." "Also very reasonable." He did. We ended up on the couch, tangled together, kissing like teenagers, and it was perfect. Everything about it was perfect. Eventually, we did sit up and have the conversation. The important one about feelings and expectations, and what this meant for us going forward. "I want to try this," Daniel said, his hand laced with mine. "Really try, not casual, not just seeing where it goes. I want this to be real." "Me too, but we need to talk about Copenhagen. If they offer you the job." "If they offer me the job, I'll turn it down." "Daniel, no, you can't do that. This is your dream." "My dreams have changed," he said simply. "I applied to that job when I was trying to run away from a breakup, trying to prove something to myself and to Ryan. But I'm not running anymore. I'm building something here, with you. What if you regret it?" "What if I don't?" He squeezed my hand. "There will be other jobs, Ethan. Good jobs. Jobs in this city where I can do the work I care about and still come home to you every night. But there's only one you." I felt tears prick at my eyes. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. "Get used to it. I'm apparently very sappy when I'm in love." My heart stopped. "You're what?" He smiled, soft and vulnerable and completely open. "I'm in love with you, Ethan. I know it's fast, and maybe I'm supposed to wait a designated amount of time before saying it, but I'm in love with you. I think I have been for a while now." "I love you too," I said, and it felt like